So good morning, everyone, and thank you for the Foundation to invite me to be here with you. My work is to help governments find how much money they have for the water sector, so how much money is being spent, and how much money they need to get to their goals, whatever their goals are, and to find the money. And then I train a lot of people, local, national people, to be able to do this, and I also train civil society to be able to hold their governments accountable. I cannot give you country data, but I'm going to give you some global and some regional data as well. Projections. The World Bank published a report that was a lot of years in the making, so it's the latest funding gap for water. And water it means different things in different parts of this presentation. So here it means SDG 1, it's universal access to safe water, and SDG 2, universal access to safe sanitation. So this doesn't mean reuse, this doesn't mean oceans, it doesn't mean biodiversity, so just drinking water. It's at the price tag is at 141 billion. However, the cost of inaction over the next 10 years, just from water-related climate events of doing nothing, are at 1.8 trillion. Amazing report from GWI, by the way. And all the sources are linked in the... So, where do we need finance? And a lot of it's climate finance. This list is not exhaustive, but I like to just give a picture of things that we've been talking about over the last yesterday. I like to organizing it in too much water, too little water, poor quality, and lack of access to wastewater. Not because they sound good, but because actually this is how they're organized institutionally. These have line ministries, ministers, secretaries of state that are responsible separately for each of these. Going back to finance, where do we need it? First part, CapEx, capital expenditure, infrastructure investments. We've all been talking about flood defenses, nature-based solutions, reuse, desal, treatments, decentralized solutions, circular economy. We all know this. We need money for CapEx. And that has been the conversation mostly of yesterday. We also started yesterday and today talking about a lot of the data, the digitalization, the ability to have adaptive management, to be able to know what risks are there and to react very, very quickly. Risk management, demand management, using pricing for that, implementing incentives and penalties, regulation. So we also need finance for that. There's some of it for data and policy implementation. So where are the major gaps? And this I find in all of the countries that I'm working. Well, first, for that part of the data and policy and regulation implementation, and then three major areas. First, asset management. This is not the money. It's physical asset management. It's renewal of infrastructure. It's preventive maintenance. It's called capital maintenance expenditure. So I want you in your words to have, you have CapEx, you know OpEx, operational expenditure. Please start using capital maintenance expenditure. It's very different than OpEx. It's difficult to fund. It's equivalent to depreciation, but it's massive, a massive, massive financial problem and in sustainability of water supply. So CapManex, I'm going to start just using the acronym. We also have major gaps in the financial instruments and models to bring the existing finance, because it's there. So the demand and the supply of finance. We have a lot of instruments and models to fund CapEx. We do not have instruments and models to fund everything else. And even CapEx is more dams is easy, desal is easy. So there's a couple of things which are easier than others. Wastewater treatment, the latest one. I've been seeing amazing fund for wastewater treatment plants, and then I go to the country, it has 3, and 2, the waste doesn't even get there. Talking about lack of system strengthening. And this is more common than you might think. And the last one, the last area where I'm so happy we've been talking about it, it's called the WEFI nexus. I don't even know how to pronounce it. Water, energy, food, environment. So it brings oceans into it, which is great. I was last week in a meeting of the Mediterranean member states. I was really happy with the advance in the conversations on WEFI, except we got stuck 2 hours discussing the words water security, and half of the member states were adamantly against using that, and that prevented the discussions on all the other important things. So there's a lot here on legal and diplomacy, which I think there's also, we haven't talked much about it, but I'm getting this sense of that I had in the countries of agriculture saying, oh, this water is mine, or textiles. I see it at member state now, oh, this water is mine. We will have to break through this because it's going to get worse, and it's not helpful. These are the gaps. But I wanted to come to solutions. So what can be done? There's usually 4 major areas that can be done, and there's not many others. This is a great publication. Actually, Leslie also co-wrote it. It's a handbook for ministers, and behind each of these you have amazing examples per country. But it's basically, you first do more with what you have, increase efficiency across your whole water cycle. Then you mobilize more funding, taxes and tariffs, there's not many more. Then you can get loans, all type of market concessional loans, and then you have a lot more innovative instruments. However, they do give you different magnitudes of finance, and you need a different sophistication in your institutional, in your capital markets, and a lot of other things. This is very useful to show where the countries are when you get a lot of details. So my last slide, I'm going to show you how this looks like in practice. 2 years ago, the African Union, so with heads of state of Africa and the Dutch government, gave a technical team a task: find 30 billion a year for water in Africa. And this water is bigger than SDG 1 and 2. It also includes climate, it also includes energy and a little bit of biodiversity, not completely. So you can see, you don't need to have, are all the sources of the funds, and that's how much we managed to find for water, and it's more than 30 billion. At the bottom of the pyramid is just a 10% increase in efficiency, just the reduction of non-revenue water. How can you be asking for more money if you have 70% non-revenue water? Clean water, paid for, clean, it's madness. So that is just a 10% on efficiency. There are very little instruments to fund this, and it's where you can get most of the cost savings. Second one, the industry, the beverage industry, the textile are already investing massively because they know the risks to their business. They're already investing, and this was just based on 99 companies operating in Africa, some of the largest ones, that report voluntarily to CDP. So we could get some of the data, not the details, but it's big. They're already doing it because they can see the risk to their business, and they're not just thinking, the next 3, 4, 5 years. Then we come to the big block, which was the big surprise to our friends, the heads of state, African Union, which is domestic resource mobilization. There's a lot of national institutional investors. We talk about all types of taxes. Somehow they really like the pollution and mineral resource taxes because there's a lot of mining industry in the countries. There's other type of taxes. All the governments funded a lot of the water and sanitation through some very specific taxes throughout the last 200 years. African government budgets, then very important, the financial institutions, the national ones, the multilateral, climate funds, and the grants. And the top of the pyramid is rare, but it's really important to de-risk the rest of the investments. So that needs to be used smarter to de-risk the rest. I'm actually ahead of time, but it's okay. I want to leave you. I'm going to stop here. I can talk a lot on this. But I wanted to leave you something from Portugal, from my country. So it's not just, it's hidden. My last slide vanished. It was, okay, so last week I was with the water companies in Portugal. So it's not just Singapore that is doing beer from used water. Also Portugal, and they have a really nice marketing company. So they don't call it reused or used, they call it Agua Plus, so water plus. It's even nicer than used. It's like beer done with water plus, and it's there it is. So that's the beer that they are doing. And then I sent this picture to my brother, and I asked him, "Would you drink this?" And he sent a very funny response. He said, "Only if I know it's mine." Which and Anyway, thank you very much.